Penguin Random House Audio presents A Little Devil in America, Notes in Praise of Black Performance by Hanif Abdurraqib. Read for you by J.D. Jackson. For Josephine Baker. If you are not a myth, whose reality are you? If you are not a reality, whose myth are you? Sun Ra. Think of our lives and tell us your particularized world. Make up a story. Toni Morrison. Movement 1. Performing miracles. On times I have forced myself to dance. Safe to say, none of the other Muslim kids on the east side of Columbus got MTV or BET in their cribs. And we do at my crib sometimes, like after Pops got a promotion, or after Grandma moved in and kept a Bible on her nightstand and had to watch the channel where her game shows ran 24/7 and... So it is also safe to say that I was the only one in the Islamic Center on Broad Street who got to stay up and watch the shows on MTV that came on after my parents cut out the lights and went up to bed, and it was only me and the warmth of an old television's glow and the DJ spinning CNC Music Factory for people in baggy and colorful get-ups and bouncing on a strobe light-drenched floor. And so it is safe to say that I only danced along the slick surface of my basement floor with the moon out, and all the lights in the house out, and the television playing hits, and this wasn't exactly practicing dance moves as much as it was learning the different directions my limbs could flail in, and there is no church like the church of unchained arms being thrown in every direction in the silence of a sleeping home. And speaking of church, to be Muslim is to pray in silence sometimes, even though the call to prayer is one of the sweetest songs that can hang in the air. And there is no praise, and there is no stomping in the aisles, and there is no Holy Spirit to carry the blame for all manner of passing out or shouting or the body's pulsing convulsions, and I do not want a spirit to enter me, but I do want a girlfriend, or at least a kiss from a girl at the Islamic Center, where we go on Friday afternoons in the summers for Juma prayer and kick our shoes off on the carpet and slip into the hallway where the boys and girls would congregate briefly before being separated for prayer. And it is absolutely safe to say that with my socks on the marble tile of the Islamic Center on Broad Street, I felt overcome by something we will call holy, I suppose, for the sake of not upsetting the divine order. And this was the mid-90s, and so no one was really doing the moonwalk anymore, and even when they did, no one was doing it right, and there was only one Michael, and I am not that nigga. And still with the girls at the Islamic Center standing in line for the water fountain, I thought, now is the time. And I was decidedly not in the dark of my basement anymore, where I knew the floors, and I understood every corner of the architecture, and I slid back on the top of my toes, and no one even turned their eyes toward me, and so no one could tell me about the stairs I was sliding toward, and so no one saw my brief moment of rhythm before it unraveled, and just like that, I was in a pile of discarded shoes. And it is safest to say that there was no girlfriend for me that summer, or the summer after. And the cable at my house got cut off the year my mother died. On marathons and tunnels. When the thick fog of exhaustion set in on a room, it was desire that kept a dancer's body upright. When the desire wore off, it would be another dancer, pulling their partner up by the arms. In the photos from the Depression-era dance marathons, women sometimes appear lifeless in the arms of their men. In some photos, men lean their resting bodies on women who have their backs arched, standing and trying to support the dead weight of the person affixed to them. Dance marathons began in the 1920s, largely in farm towns. As carnivals and fairs began growing along the American landscape, Americans became more obsessed with the impossible. Feats of strength or human endurance. People attempted flagpole sitting or long, horrific cross-country foot races. With the successful modernization of the Olympic Games in 1896, Americans became invested in the idea of world records. Even well before the establishment of the Guinness Book of World Records, everything was measured. Time and tenure were benchmarks for the impossible. In 1923, Alma Cummings danced with 6 men in Upper Manhattan's Audubon Ballroom for 27 hours straight. Cummings was a dance instructor who was interested in the body's limits on the dance floor. Her triumph sat directly at the intersection of the era's many fascinations, with excess, with endurance, with testing the limits of the country's tolerance for more liberal sexual expression. And the only photo of Cummings taken right after she'd stomped and spun along the wooden floor for over a full day. She's got her feet in a small bowl of water. Her smile would appear to be one of satisfaction, if not for our understanding of what she'd just completed. With that knowledge, her upturned mouth looks as if it might be tilting toward a type of madness, highlighted by her barely open and vacant eyes. In one hand, Cummings holds the shoes she danced in. A hole is blown clean through each of them, near where a foot might strike the ground during a spirited movement. Both holes wide as 2 open mouths, in awe and horror. When word of Alma Cummings' accomplishment started to crawl across the records-obsessed country, there was no way folks were going to be outdone. People saw someone do something that had never been done before, and they wanted a piece of that something too. Some churches still said dancing was a sin, but there would be no sin greater than the sin of sitting idle while a chance to carve your name into immortality was available. Cummings had her record broken at least 9 times in the next 3 weeks. In Baltimore, in Cleveland, in Houston, and Minneapolis. Stories of the hours people danced spread through newspapers, traveling from town to town. If someone hit 31 hours on a Sunday somewhere in Indiana, then surely someone a few states over would be trying to drag themselves to 32 hours by Tuesday. The problem, as eager promoters saw it, was that no one was capitalizing on this new obsession. Sure, the boom of industry in the early 1920s kept the people in urban centers well-fed and eager to spend their coin on whatever entertainment they could find. But the people who lived in America's rural corners found themselves pushed to dire circumstances. A combination of boredom and a scarcity of resources engineered the perfect opportunity for promoters to cash in on the growing excitement around the dance marathon. There was the space to do it. Barns made empty by lack of use, or vast gathering halls that some of the more claustrophobic bigger cities didn't have. There was also, simply, the ability to capitalize on poverty and need. Organizers would offer cash prizes of a few $100s for the winners, sometimes more. A good competition could offer a prize larger than a farmer's yearly income. In addition, dancers were lured toward the competitions by the simple promise of food and shelter. Food was provided during the marathons, and the dancers were given short breaks to eat, bathe, and shave. It was a grand alternative to hunger, or having to be immersed in the reality of one's circumstances. Anything the dancers put themselves through felt worthwhile, given what the marathon was taking them away from. Even if they didn't win, they still had a purpose for however long they could withstand the sleeplessness, or the blood-swollen feet, or the trembling legs, bent and unsteady. Once the stock market crashed in 1929, dance marathons became a nationwide craze. Desperation is the great equalizer, after all. The pool of willing contestants widened and spread beyond rural America. People with no job prospects would...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?